For another friendly chat with the high priest of this time the United States Senate, who have invited him to testify and have done so in a manner that makes it clear that they are as hostile and suspicious and vindictive again about a special counsel who only acted righteously and only did the right thing and assembled absolutely valid cases against Donald Trump, but they are ready to try to trap him however they can. So you have the actual chair of the Judiciary Committee saying, how's this for a kind of nice, nonpartisan invitation? Senator Grassley, in the process of a deeply flawed, weaponized investigation, I just got to stop. The more they say it, they think it's true. It just doesn't make it true. Weaponized, we know what it means. It means he would have gone after him where the facts and law point otherwise, as this administration does again and again with political enemies or people they just want to exploit for a Trump talking point, like Davy Hearn, the Olympic canoeist whose charges of supposedly damaging the reflecting pool were just dismissed. That's weaponization. Nothing that Smith did is, but here we go. And another canard's coming up. In the process of a deeply flawed weaponized investigation, Jack Smith subpoenaed phone toll records from a dozen senators, scooped up. Doubt Grassley wrote that, but I'm sure a staffer was proud of themselves for doing it. Scooped up text messages from over 40 members of Congress and subpoenaed the private communications and financial records of hundreds of other Republican entities and individuals. Grassley said he needs to answer directly to Congress for his actions. So you can see what kind of friendly reception he's going to get. Moreover, as the last time, the DOJ, just before he testified, said, Jack Smith, there's a court order there from Eileen Cannon. You're not allowed to do anything to reveal volume 2 of your report. It's been put under wraps by her. We won't tell you. He literally made the reasonable request in response. What don't you want me to talk about exactly? We won't tell you, but you better not screw up or we'll pin a contempt or some kind of charge on you faster than you can say insurrection. And he went there and he conducted himself with dignity and carefully and notwithstanding which he still has enemies in the Senate who have just swallowed whole this absolutely false narrative that he had a weaponized investigation. Now I want to zero in on what they're going to be talking about. It's completely ignorant on their part. Remember, Smith is looking at what happens January 6th. January 6th, we know from all kinds of sources, was this just total beehive of activity between members of Congress, Mark Meadows in particular at the White House, and Trump. So if you're trying to figure out, as you must, as is prosecutorial practice 101, what was going on the whole day, what was Trump doing while people were hanging Mike Vance in effigy and storming the Capitol, you do it by figuring out, among other things, usually though primarily even, phone calls. And the phone calls that he subpoenaed, and he certainly did, and it would have been malpractice not to, give printouts. They don't give the communication. The senators are just either being deceptive or ignorant here. They don't give the actual words, which you can get, but with a much higher showing. What they give is so-called metadata that says this number called that number on this day for such and such a time. That's what they say. But with that, you can put up sort of on the board in front of a jury how Trump was spending his whole time. And there absolutely were people from Congress. Some of them were calling up and telling him, call off the dogs, or telling that to Meadows. And Meadows was saying, I'm trying, but he won't do it. Some of them were, totally in on it. And remember, after the dust all settled, in the House, 200 Republicans voted not to certify the results that everyone knew was true. This was an absolute conspiracy, not with a small c. That is an effort by so many in the Republican Party, led by Donald Trump, to steal from the people the result, the popular will of whom they wanted to be their president. It's basically breathtaking and totally merited the investigation that Smith did and did professionally. But Grassley is saying, you took our number somehow, or he's trying to make it seem like it's sinister. Now this part, scooped up text messages from over 40 members of Congress. What that means, they got this wrong before and then they were corrected. What that means is the archives have all these presidential records. That's where they go when a presidency ends, which, fortunately for the Republic, the Trump first presidency did. And that's just, whatever goes in, those are presidential records. And among those presidential records were, in fact, emails from some members of Congress to the White House. So, yes, he scooped up, meaning these were public records, presidential records, and he, as he was perfectly entitled to do and was absolutely prudent, looked at them. So, the suggestion all over this that he was somehow, in their underwear drawers and improperly ferreting out information for political reasons is 100% horseshit, but it's what you're going to see on September 22nd. As for the last thing, subpoenaing the private communications and financial records of hundreds of other Republican entities and individuals, yeah, that's right. It was Republican entities and individuals who are involved in this whole thing from the start. So, Smith, as he's done, he's been very calm, very stand-up, very professional, very just the facts. He knows for certain that he is absolutely in the crosshairs, and there are people there who want to see him prosecuted for anything they can come up with. The worry, of course, will be some kind of complete bogus perjury or false statement investigation where he says in testimony, I think the car was white, and last time he said it was gray. Whatever, something that would never ever count for perjury, or even where he doesn't even say something different, but they refer it up to whom? Yep, a rabid, waiting Department of Justice wanting nothing so much as to do Donald Trump's bidding and please him, and nothing would so please him as an investigation against Jack Smith and putting Jack Smith in the dock. In other words, a complete railroading of the sort that is the absolute feature of totalitarian states, where the maximum leader's personal pettiness and vendettas drive justice as opposed to the rule of law without fear or favor. So we're going to have this same kind of complete charade where there'll be this faux aggressive, how dare you kinds of questions that if you listen carefully to them with a modicum of knowledge of how prosecutions and investigations work and how they have to work, you'll know clearly, yeah, he's not in any way accusing Jack Smith of doing something that a professional prosecutor like Jack Smith should not have done. Indeed, we're talking about things that any thorough prosecutor would have done. But you can bet that they'll either shade it or even just make it sound sinister when it wasn't. And Smith will, he'll play it careful as he has so far, but he's also aware if it were in complete Looney Tunes and everything about government and law has been thrown out the window for absolutely ridiculous reasons, I'm in the crosshairs of Donald Trump, meaning the Department of Justice with its likely new AG, Todd Blanche, and Republicans in the Senate, all of whom know better. And they just want to slap him around because he had the nerve to look into what was going on in Congress and the Senate during this fateful and horrible day of January 6th, and to make points for Trump and everything but trying to do a genuine investigation, figure out what happened, which would, of course, and this is not on the agenda, completely vindicate the conduct of Jack Smith. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching Talking Feds. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And for a lot more content, all of my essays, ad-free podcasts, and weekly Ask Me Anything Q&A sessions, check out the Talking Feds Substack and please subscribe there as well. Talk to you later.